Hey guys, and welcome back to another Mystery Monday video on my channel. Today's video is actually going to be the last video in the Missing 411 series for this month on this channel. But this is definitely a topic that I will revisit in the future because this is one that I personally am very interested in. Whether I'm making videos about these cases or not, it's something that I read about quite often, so you can definitely expect more of these Missing 411 types of videos in the future. But because this is the last video, I actually decided to save the most baffling and confusing and interesting and one that is just absolutely mind-blowing case for the last case in this series for this month. So with that all being said, I hope that you guys enjoy the video and let's get right into today's case. Alfred Beilhartz was the youngest of 11 children in his family, but despite the large amount of children that his parents did have, all of the children were equally loved for. None of them were neglected like you would sometimes think in a large family like this. They all got along really well, and by all accounts this family was very happy and very normal. In 1938, Alfred's parents decided that they wanted to go on a camping trip for the Independence Day weekend. Now, I'm not exactly sure how many of the family members went on this trip, but I do know for sure that Alfred had gone along with his two parents. On July 2nd, 1938, Mrs. and Mr. Beilhartz, along with their 4-year-old son Alfred, head down to the river to wash up and clean themselves off. And after they finished doing this, the three of them began to hike along the side of the river. And while they were doing this, they were in a single file line when 4-year-old Alfred just seemingly vanished. I just want to mention here quickly, because I realize now that I didn't mention it at the beginning of the video, they were camping at Rocky Mountain National Park in Colorado. At the time that Alfred had disappeared, the family was chatting and laughing and just having a generally good time. And although the parents were walking in front of Alfred, both of them turned around every few seconds to make sure that he was keeping up with them. They also said that while they were hiking, Alfred was pretty much right on top of the back of his mother's heels, that he was so close to the back of his mom that she could actually feel him there. So when he just vanished, they were shocked because they didn't hear anything and there was absolutely nobody around at the time besides them. They began retracing their steps backwards to see if maybe he had fallen or something had happened to him, and they were shouting his name, but unfortunately they had no luck. So at this time they informed park rangers of what had happened about their missing son, who then informed law enforcement. The park rangers were pretty certain that they would be able to find this little boy, again because he was only 4 years old, so they didn't think that he could have covered that much ground in such a short period of time, and because the time that he had vanished in was so small, they thought that he couldn't have gotten very far. So if they searched the general area where the family was hiking, they were almost positive that they would be able to find Alfred, but unfortunately they turned up with absolutely nothing. Because Alfred's parents had said that they were hiking along a river trail, police immediately thought that Alfred could have fallen into the river and something could have happened to him there. But his parents were absolutely adamant that they were not that close to the river. And the way that I believe it is set up, or the way that they were walking, is that the river was actually quite a while away from where they were walking. Like, they were walking alongside the river, but they were more or less in the wooded area, which was quite a distance from where the actual river was. But it was still along the side of the river trail, if that makes sense. So they were walking along the side of the river, but it was quite a distance from the actual river itself. Sorry if that was really confusing and hard to understand. I was just trying to make sure that you guys understood that they were on a river trail, but they were not near the river. But besides Alfred's parents saying that there was absolutely no way that he was in the river, this is still the lead that investigators followed. So what they had actually done was they built a dam at the end of the 6-mile-long river to stop the water from flowing to make it easier for them to search. So this river was actually searched over the span of 5 days, but nothing of Alfred's was ever discovered inside the water. Now, after searching the river and turning up empty-handed, a team of cadaver dogs was brought in, and this is where this case begins to get very strange. The cadaver dogs followed Alfred's scent 500 feet up from where his parents and him had been hiking, from where he had vanished from. Now keep in mind that Alfred is only a 4-year-old boy, and this hike that he was being traced down was actually one that would have been extremely difficult for even an adult. So for 4-year-old Alfred to be able to get that high up on his own would have been extremely impressive. Not only that, but while the cadaver dogs were searching for Alfred, they behaved very strangely. Now, as most of you know, cadaver dogs are working dogs. They are trained to act a specific way and to do their job, and they know how they're supposed to act and how they're supposed to react and what they're supposed to be doing, and they're very well-trained dogs, and this is what they are trained for. They are working and this is their job. But while searching for Alfred, again, they behaved very oddly. And while following his scent, they got to a certain point where all of the cadaver dogs just laid down. They were like, nope, we're done, we're not going anymore, and they laid down right there in the middle of the woods. And guys, it really only gets stranger from here. On the day that Alfred had vanished, a couple was hiking on Old Fall Road, which is about 6 miles away from where Alfred had vanished. And just a little side note here, just to show you guys how absolutely bizarre this is, but the area where this couple was hiking was actually 3,000 feet above where Alfred was hiking with his parents when he disappeared. And this hike from where Alfred was with his parents to where this couple was wouldn't have been an easy hike. It was very rocky and dirty, and it was just a very overall difficult terrain. It wasn't like it was just an easy hike. It was straight uphill, through the woods, through a very rocky, branchy, difficult hike for even an adult. Now at this point, because it was just hours after Alfred had vanished, the couple had no idea about Alfred's disappearance. The couple claimed that they had seen a young boy perched on a high peak in what is known as Devil's Nest near the top of Mount Chaplin. They said that the boy was ominously looming down at them before he was seemingly jerked back and was out of their view. Something that I also want to mention here is that many people question if this had happened, why the couple hadn't hiked up to see why this boy was by himself on top of this mountain. But again, he was almost on top of a mountain. That is a very difficult hike, and because the boy was jerked back, I think that the couple probably assumed that he was with an adult, because there would have been no way that a 4-year-old boy could have hiked up that mountain by himself. So that is just something to keep in mind throughout the rest of this case. Once the couple got home, they seen Alfred's face all over the news, in the newspapers. His face was plastered absolutely everywhere. And that is when the couple called the police, because they were absolutely positive that the boy that they seen sitting on the perch on the top of that high mountain was Alfred. Authorities deemed it next to impossible for a 4-year-old child to be able to hike up that high mountain. But because the couple was absolutely sure that it was Alfred that they had seen on the top of that mountain, investigators decided to search this lead and go up there and search for him anyways. And even for them, they had to have a lot of gear, and the hike was still very difficult. But once they got up to the top of this mountain where Alfred was allegedly seen, they couldn't find any sign of him. Many people who have come across this case still believe to this day that Alfred had just simply fallen into the river and drowned. But even if he hadn't drowned and he somehow managed to get out, that leaves me with the question as to why was nothing of his ever found in the river. You'd think that because he is such a young child, if he had fallen into the river, he was likely to have at least lost a shoe or something like that, but nothing of his was ever found. But again, even if he hadn't fallen into the river and he somehow got lost in the woods, you still think that something of his again would be found, such as a shoe or remains of his clothing or something like that. He was only 4 years old, so the fact that he could have covered that much ground is something that really baffles me. Now this case is definitely one that I lost sleep over. It is something that just absolutely baffles me, how a child can seemingly disappear from right under his parents' noses. And this happens so often. Children, also adults, just seemingly vanish in national parks without a trace. There's no sound, there's no evidence, there's just nothing. And I mean, like, I do understand that while you're hiking in national parks, it is often common to fall and get hurt or to get lost, but when you're with a group of people and you just vanish right out of the group, that is just so puzzling and leaves me with so many questions. How did Alfred vanish so abruptly without even so much as a sound? Why did his scent trail end so abruptly, and why were the cadaver dogs acting so weird? Was it him that the couple had seen on top of that ridge, and if so, how did he get up there, and what or who was it that yanked him back? Due to the amount of time that has passed since Alfred Beilhartz has vanished, this case is no longer being investigated, and sadly it is likely that we will never get any answers as to what happened that day. This case does remind me a lot of the Dennis Martin case, which I also covered on my channel, so I will link that video in the description box below for you guys. If you haven't seen it, I highly suggest that you go and check that out. But it is so strange how many people who vanish in national parks, their cases are like this. And it seems to me that no matter how logical of an explanation you can think of or come up with to explain how these people just vanished, there seems to be holes in it. And that just really leaves me stumped. I would love to know what you guys think about these cases, so make sure you leave me a comment below letting me know what you think possibly happened in this case, because this is definitely one of the strangest cases I've come across. But guys, that brings us to the end of this video. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up and don't forget to comment down below. And also comment down below if you know about any strange missing 411 cases similar to this one, because I would love to research them and possibly make a video on that. But anyways, don't forget to subscribe and turn on that notification bell so that you don't miss any of my future videos. And thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye guys!